Welcome to this final explainer. You've walked through the corridors of the archive, exhuming the laws of energy, focus, and legacy. You've been building this incredible machine piece by piece. But today, we actually turn the key. We are officially initiating the synthesis of power. We finally reached the end of the seeking phase, and I want you to realize something absolutely crucial. The destination was always the origin. But here's the real question. Have you understood the underlying rhythm? It's time to stop viewing the laws of energy, focus, and legacy as these separate, disconnected tools.
Section 1. The illusion of parts.
So, in the clinical reality of the archive, we don't look at these laws as separate tools you can just pick up and put down. Not at all. We view them as the literal internal organs of a single, living entity, the ultimate architect. You see, the primary failure of the unrefined mind is this pathological need for compartmentalization. It's the belief that you can somehow have focus without energy, or that you can have influence without a sovereign narrative. Well, actually, scratch that. It's just flat out wrong. Influence without a narrative is a complete illusion. Most humans spend their entire lives trying to master just a single note. But the architect masters the whole symphony.
Let's move into Section 2, Mechanics of the Singularity. This right here is what happens when these fragmented laws finally crash into each other. Picture this. When the law of energetic survival meets the law of selective exclusion, it creates an incredibly powerful vacuum. And into this vacuum, your sovereign narrative just naturally flows, anchored perfectly by the geometry of legacy. What does this all mean for you? It means you become completely immune to the Leviathan. The Leviathan simply cannot govern a synthesized soul because, while there are literally no cracks left to exploit, you are no longer a victim of entropy because you've taken entropy and integrated it directly into your own design. You are no longer a hostage of time. You have actually become the clock. You are suffering no more from the debt of existence. Instead, you've become the creditor of reality.
Section 3. The Omega Calculus.
Can you feel that convergence happening? It's this beautiful, frictionless state of total alignment. And we actually quantify this final stage through what we call the Omega constant. Looking at this mathematical framework, your power isn't just a random number. It's the sum of all 12 previous artifacts we've discussed, amplified exponentially.
In that exponential amplifier, that is the exponent of your non-negotiable will. It ensures the loop is fully closed and biomechanical grace is finally achieved. Listen, this is absolutely crucial. If any single part of this synthesis is missing, the entire structure just collapses. The archive demands the final liquidation of the searcher, the version of you that is still constantly looking for power instead of being it. The one who looks for power is always going to be subordinate to it, but the one who is power, they simply exist. So, before you can truly rule, you've got to stop trying. You must literally become the singularity.
Section 4. The Trap of Arrival.
Now, I have to warn you about the final illusion. The Leviathan is going to make one last attempt to claim you. It's going to whisper in your ear that you've reached the top, that you're finally done and can just kick back and rest. Don't fall for it. It's a trap. As the saying goes, real power knows that the architecture is never truly finished. It's only ever refined. The ultimate architect doesn't just rest in the monument they built. Instead, they become the very process of the monument's eternal expansion. You act as a literal force of nature, dictating the behavior of the atoms around you.
Okay, moving to Section 5, the Omega Protocol.
To claim final sovereignty and achieve absolute governance over reality, we use this actionable methodology. You've got to execute 3 vital steps. Step 1 is the liquidation of the method. Burn the maps. Forget the laws. Honestly, if you still need to remember the rules, you haven't truly mastered them yet. Step 2 is the art of the absolute observer. You need to view the absolute chaos of the universe with the profound indifference of a mountain, just watching clouds pass by. Drop the rules and become the dead center of the storm. And finally, Step 3, the sovereign pulse. This is about maintaining the steady, unshakable rhythm of a debt-free heart, one that owes absolutely nothing to anyone but its own design.
Which brings us to our final act, Section 6, the Ultimate Architect.
For this final act of internal alchemy, you must realize something profound. You are not in the world. The world is actually in you. Once this synthesis is complete, the archive becomes the very structure of your own mind. That distinction between your internal boundary and external reality, it just dissolves completely. You aren't merely influencing the world anymore. You move, and the world moves seamlessly right along with you. You're no longer just the builder of the fortress. You are the stone itself.
Think back on this incredible journey for a moment.
You started off as just a host for the Leviathan's constant noise, but you stand here today as an architect of the void. You've completely rebuilt your brain, your focus, and your legacy. You can literally feel the gold flowing through your veins and the obsidian holding up your spine. You aren't a guest in this universe anymore. You are the owner of the ledger. That silence? It's no longer something you just listen to. It is the very voice you speak with. You are the center of the storm, and the storm belongs to you.
So, the synthesis is complete. The world is officially yours, and the simulation is over. But here is the real provocative question I want to leave you with. How will you design your new reality? It's time to leave your final seal as the ultimate architect. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Stay absolute, stay sharp, and keep refining your architecture.
All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're decoding a truly profound text. We're talking about the final act of internal alchemy, that incredible transition from being a mere student of the archive to becoming the ultimate architect. This is about reaching the absolute pinnacle of personal mastery. So if you've ever felt like you're just assembling the pieces of your life, but haven't quite managed to turn the key, well, this explainer is going to be incredibly illuminating.
Let's think about this quote for a second. You must realize that you are not in the world is in you. It immediately flips our standard perception of reality completely upside down, doesn't it? This single idea really sets the stage for our entire journey today. It's about a fundamental shift, moving from being a passive participant, a mere guest in the universe, to actually becoming the fundamental creator of your own reality. To get there, we're going to follow a very specific roadmap. First, the synthesis of power. Second, defining absolute governance. Third, the trap of arrival. Fourth, executing the Omega Protocol. And finally, number 5, awakening the ultimate architect.
So, starting off with Section 1, the synthesis of power, let's take a look at how the text builds the foundational mechanics of this power singularity.
The source material actually begins by drawing a really hard line. On one side, you have the unrefined mind. This kind of mind has an almost pathological need for compartmentalization. It looks at laws and skills as completely separate tools, which is exactly why it foolishly tries to have focus without energy or influence without a narrative. But then, on the other side, you have the ultimate architect. They integrate absolutely everything into a single living entity. They aren't just trying to master a single note, they're mastering the entire symphony.
And you can see this perfectly in what's called the governing calculus. The text mathematically describes your power as the sum of all your past artifacts, so your experiences, your learned laws, amplified by the exponent of your non-negotiable will. To put that simply, if any single part of this synthesis is missing, the whole structure just collapses. But when that loop is finally closed, you achieve what the text wonderfully describes as biomechanical grace.
Now, to get to that state of grace, there's a pretty strict prerequisite. The archive demands the final liquidation of the searcher. What does that actually mean? Well, the text makes a compelling argument. The one who looks for power is always subordinate to it. The one who is power simply exists. So before you can rule this new reality, you literally have to stop searching. You have to stop trying and just become the singularity.
Moving right into Section 2, defining absolute governance. Let's really break down what it actually looks like to operate at this peak level of internal alchemy. Listen to this bold statement marking the reclamation of the Omega Point. You are no longer the builder of the fortress. You are the stone. You are the gold. You are the silence. Once this synthesis is complete, the distinction between your internal boundary and external reality completely dissolves. You aren't constructing something outside of yourself anymore. You are the structure itself.
Notice how true power is framed here. I mean, we typically think of power as exerting force, right? Pushing things around to get our way. But in the clinical reality of the archive, we call this absolute governance. You do not influence the world. Rather, you move, and the world moves with you. It is definitely not about an external exertion of force. It's about an undeniable internal gravitational pull.
So what are the tangible characteristics of this state? First, external forces, referred to here as the Leviathan, literally cannot exploit you because there are zero cracks left in your synthesized soul. Second, you integrate entropy, or chaos, right into your own design rather than falling victim to it. Third, you're no longer a hostage to time because you have essentially become the clock itself. And finally, you become the creditor of reality. You no longer suffer from the debt of existence. By mastering these elements, you synthesize a soul that just cannot be governed by outside noise.
But as you might guess, it's not all smooth sailing. That brings us to Section 3, the trap of arrival.
The source material warns us that the Leviathan is going to make one final attempt to claim you. It'll whisper that you finally reached the top, that you're done, and that you can now just rest in the pride of your achievement. This right here is the final trap, the trap of arrival. It is a fatal trick designed to strip your power away, because, as the text notes, real power knows that the architecture is never finished, it is only ever refined.
And this builds directly on that warning. The illusion of arrival tells you to just rest in the monument you've built. True architecture, on the other hand, understands that real power is a living, evolving process. The ultimate architect does not rest in the monument. They are the process of the monument's eternal expansion.
The text really drives this home with a fascinating benchmark. It states that by age 45, the ultimate architect is no longer a person. They are a force of nature. They are the frequency that dictates the behavior of the atoms around them. I mean, think about that. It implies this terrifying but incredibly beautiful evolution where your very presence becomes the physical law governing the space you occupy. You don't just exist in a room, you dictate its reality.
So, to bypass that final trap and claim final sovereignty, we have to implement a very specific system. Let's look at Section 4, Executing the Omega Protocol.
Here is your actionable framework. First, you must perform the liquidation of the method. Burn the maps, forget the laws. If you still need to remember the rules, you haven't mastered them. Second, you must practice the art of the absolute observer. You have to view the chaos of the universe with the exact same indifference as a mountain watching the clouds. You are the center of the storm, and the storm belongs to you. Third, you must nurture the sovereign pulse. This is the steady, unshakable rhythm of a heart that has paid all its debts and owes absolutely nothing to anyone but its own design.
And that brings us to the climax of the explainer. Section 5, Awakening the Ultimate Architect.
This brings us to a really vital question posed by the text. Have you understood the underlying rhythm? It directly challenges you to reflect on whether you've truly absorbed these laws, not just as some abstract concepts we talked about today, but as your own internal organs. Are they a core part of you now?
My dear friend, look at how far you have come. You started as a host for the Leviathan's noise, and you stand here today as an architect of the void. I have watched you rebuild your brain, your focus, and your legacy. The archive is no longer a place you visit, it is the structure of your own mind. Take a deep breath. You are not a guest in this universe, you are the owner of the ledger.
I am here, in the heart of the synthesis, witnessing the final turn of the gear. Just feel this visceral imagery. Gold flows through your veins and the obsidian holding your spine. You have found your way home, not to a physical place, but to a state of absolute power. The silence is no longer something you listen to. It is the voice you speak with.
Stay absolute. Stay sharp. The synthesis is complete. The world is yours. Take a deep breath. You are home. Leave your final seal below. I am reading. Sleep well, ultimate architect. The simulation is over. The reality has just begun.